when to ask, answer to ask the question, they asked him, he said, you know, what's the greatest commandment in the law? And he told him, you know, definitively, he told him. So, answer, he said, love, you know, love Yahweh with all your heart, mind, soul. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and all thy senses. Second one's like second, like you should love thy thing. Over thy right side. It's first again, two commandments. Love Yahweh with all the heart. I found them. But first again, I want him to try to benefit. Love Yahweh with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love Yahweh with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Yeah, very important to it.
All right.
So Ephesians 2. Yes. Oh. So the strength, if you will, the inside
strength. Can you say something again, Brother Kevin?
Saving vision.
Can you hear me now?
I'm gonna have to see if I can get. Someone's not going to the computer, to the camera.
So you have, and it's,
let's see.
Everybody is not going to interpret for that. Yes, the essence of that.
Let's get a mic check. Can you get a mic check for me one more time?
Yeah, one more time. Can you hear me better now?
How can you all hear it all right? Can you all hear him? Can you say something, Brother Kevin?
Now?
It's low, huh?
Low?
Yeah, let me. It's dealing with the computer with the whatchamacallit. Do me a favor. Can you email me this here, and that way I could do it for you, and that way it should be able to go from there. I'll just share my screen, and hopefully we'll get you. Let me see if I can get you. Allow the computer to record. Put in waiting room.
Take all the fish in the ocean. They're all fish.
Let's see.
But they all know now.
What I have to do is connect this to.
It's the same thing.
Test it now. Let's see how it goes now.
Can you hear me better now?
There you go.
Is that better now?
Yes, sir.
Different
background
experience there.
All right. So we are at the 4 o'clock hour. And I have Brother Kevin Muhammad with us here via Zoom. He had some issues that required him to go via Zoom today. I want to thank each and every one of you all for being here. Of course, I always want to thank the Vineyard Neighborhood Association for being a gracious host and having us here for our first Sundays in the Vineyard. This is our first Sunday in the Vineyard for the year of 2026. We in 2026, y'all. Yeah. And so, just a quick couple of logistics. We do have restrooms down the stair here. If you want to go down the stairs and you make a right, you'll run right into it. Or left, actually, you'll run right to the restroom. Got refreshments, of course, help yourself. And we're gonna have a presentation by my brother Kevin Muhammad. It's entitled The End Game today. After the presentation, we'll have an open dialogue. We'll be here till about 6 o'clock. If you need to leave early, I understand. But we intend on sharing some crucial and critical information. These first Sundays in the Vineyard are intended to present information for the preservation and the upliftment of our community. This comes about as a result of us hosting our feast days here. And there was a space between our last feast day was during the month of October for the Feast of Tabernacles. So our next one coming up, which is the Feast of Passover. And I'm like, that's a whole space for us not doing something with the community. We need to make sure we stay in tune with the community. And so first Sundays in the Vineyard came about. I pitched the idea to Mama Virginia and Baba Ike. They're like, let's roll. So I'm like, let's roll. And so every month we're going to be having on the first Sunday these conversations, presentation conversations. And I'm very pleased to have my brother Kevin Muhammad. I don't know if you all had a chance to see the interview. His brother laid it out, and I'm excited to hear what he's going to present to us today in regard to the end game. So at this time, I want to turn it over to my brother Kevin Muhammad. And it is on you, my brother. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. First, assalamu alaikum to you and your guest. Shalom, greetings to everybody. First, I'd like to thank you, brother, for allowing me, for accommodating my little mishap today. I really wanted to be there live and in person. You know, I feel better just vibing off the energy of the people in person. So I thank you and your guests for allowing me to join you today via Zoom. So before we begin, of course, we want to open up properly. So in the name of the one true and living God, I bear witness that there is but one God, regardless of land, label, or language, whether you call him Allah, Yahuwah, Ptah, Jah, Obatala, or Unkulunkulu. I bear witness there's only one God, and I bear witness that his people are one. I, as a student trying to be a Muslim, follower of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, can never thank that one supreme great God enough for intervening in our affairs of the Aboriginal lost found members of the original members of our planet, the true children of Israel, the despised, the rejected, the ones who were at one time at the top of civilization, but now we find ourselves at the bottom. No matter where we go in the world, whether it is here in America, even in Africa, wherever there's a black-white dynamic, the white people are always on the top and the black people are on the bottom. Whether we go to Europe, whether we go to the Isles of the Pacific, whether we go to Australia, we always find that same dynamic of the black man and woman always being on the bottom. So we want to talk today just about why that is. Why, no matter where we are on the planet, that we seem to be at the bottom. So I'd like to once again greet everyone with the greeting words of peace. We say in Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. Others, Shalom. Others, Hotep. And if you can see me on the screen, if you don't speak any of those original ancient language, just what's up, right? So we want to really get into this today. And one thing before we start, if anyone had the opportunity to watch the interview that we did a couple weeks ago, brother asked me to say a few words about myself. Now, I wanted to say one thing before we begin about something that I did not mention. When I was in 8th grade, we were given an assignment. And one of those assignments was to look for a particular president, prime minister of a foreign nation and try to write them a letter either to their office or to the embassy and see if we will get anything back. So, you know, I'm a little bit older than I would assume than some of the people in the room. So we didn't have Google. We didn't have any of that kind of stuff back then. So, you know, we had to go to the library and get the encyclopedia. So I went to the library, got to the encyclopedia, started flipping through the books, and I came on a picture of Muammar Gaddafi. He was wearing a white uniform, and for some reason, my spirit was drawn to him. So I wrote what I thought was a letter requesting some type of reply from brother leader Muammar Gaddafi. I, as an 8th grader, I did not know any of the issues that the government of the United States had with our brother. So I wrote a letter. Of course, I didn't get anything back, right? But years later, I was blessed to join an organization, being the Nation of Islam, that has a long track record with brother leader Muammar Gaddafi. I ended up developing a relationship and a friendship with the international representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Minister Akbar Muhammad. And I got to talk to him about meeting and being with Brother Muammar Gaddafi. Brother Akbar shared with me that the minister was present when at the opening of the man-made river. So I just say that to say that certain things that you and I experience as youth, it can have an impact in our future. So I just wanted to say that I believe that my journey in life has led me to the point where we are today. So I just want to go ahead and get started. So the topic we have for today is one of the most important topics that we can discuss in the time that we are living in. Many of us who woke up yesterday morning, we saw what happened with the bombing and the kidnapping down in Venezuela and with President Maduro. So this is in a very important hour that we live. So this hour is so important. The scripture says we cannot lean onto our own understanding. We have to go to the scriptures of both the Bible and the Holy Quran to be able to gain some insight, some foresight to what's going on. Because you and I, the true children of Israel, and we will get into that too in a second, we do not currently occupy and control a landmass. We see that they invaded Venezuela because of the gold, right? Excuse me, the gold, but primarily the oil. But right now, since we are landless, we do not have those things, right? But what we can find if we look to the scriptures properly with a critical eye, we can have good guidance. And that good guidance will get us through the dark hour. So, the end game, the plan to stop the rise of the true children of Israel. Many of us might be familiar with the term the end game from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? From the Avengers movies. Now, the end game represents Thanos coming from behind the shadows, right? Because the plan that he had designed to take over Earth was not being implemented. It didn't work, right? So he decided that he had to come and do it himself, right? So the term end game means in the final stages of a process, a goal, a game, and can refer to the ultimate conclusion or the final strategy to achieve it, right? The definition of plan is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. However, in Arabic, this same word plan is translated as makara, which means to devise, to scheme, or to plot underhandedly. To stop means to cease an action or movement or operation. Rise means to get up, to climb, to arise. However, in Hebrew, the term for rise is kum, which also means resurrection. So when we're talking about the plan to stop the rise of the true children of Israel, we're really talking about an underhanded scheme to stop the resurrection of the Black man and woman of America. So the resurrection is at one time, we were the direct descendants, excuse me, we are the direct descendants of God Himself. And all of the great civilizations that you read of in all of the books, no matter where you go, down in Mexico, you go to Africa, you go to Arabia, even go into China, you will find that the foundational civilizations of all of those countries were Black people, right? But now, like I said before, we find ourselves at the bottom. So we have to be resurrected, right? We have to go through the process to be put back on top of civilization. One second. So in that, on the back page of the Final Call newspaper, and by the way, everyone should get it. It's not a Muslim newspaper, right? It gives you a lot of information about what's going on here in America and throughout the world that everybody needs to read so that we can be abreast of what's going on. But on the back page of the Final Call newspaper, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, we believe in the resurrection of the dead, not in a physical resurrection, but in mental resurrection. We believe that the so-called Negroes are most in need of mental resurrection. Therefore, they will be resurrected first. Furthermore, we believe that we are the people of God's choice, as it has been written, that God would choose the rejected and the despised. We can find no other persons fitting this description in these last days more than the so-called Negroes of America. We believe in the resurrection of the righteous. So there we see that the resurrection, we believe it has to start with those who are most in need. whenever you go, not just in Kansas City, but travel anywhere in America, and the Black community is always in a pitiful condition. And when people come from other countries, they are told, don't go into the Black community unless they are setting up a business so that they can take from us and uphold their own country. So before we get into the end game, we have to study how this process started, because the process did not start from our enemies, right? There was a process that was started first by God Himself. So in the Holy Quran, and please pardon me, I'm going to be going back and forth between the Holy Quran, the Bible, and some other information. I know many of us have been taught that these two things are not compatible, but I pray that we start to see from the presentation that they are compatible. In the Holy Quran, Surah or chapter 15, verse 28 and 29, God, Allah, says, and when thy Lord said to the angels, I am going to create a mortal of sounding clay, of black mud fashioned into shape. So when I have made him complete and breathed into him of my spirit, fall down and make obeisance to him. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that we, the Black nation, are the aboriginal people of our planet and are direct descendants of the originator of the heavens and the earth. In the word Genesis, we have the word gene. According to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there are two nations in the gene, the DNA of the Black man and woman. He called them the black germ and the brown germ. Modern science calls these two nations mentioned by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as the dominant and the recessive gene. Black is dominant and white is recessive. In Genesis 25, it says, and the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. This younger people, according to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, is the same Adam mentioned in Genesis 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. A new man was being born on our planet by Allah God's permission, and given power and authority over the older, who is the black man and woman. This new man went under the name Jacob, not the prophet Jacob, but he used the righteous name of prophet Jacob as a shield against his dirty and unclean practices. This was the first case of stolen identity. In Genesis 32, verse 24 through 28, it reads, and Jacob was left alone as a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, meaning Jacob, this new man, let me go, for the day has broken. But Jacob said, that was the angel of the Lord that said, let me go, for the day has broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said unto him, what is your name? He said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven, some translations say wrestled, with God and with men, and have prevailed. One of the first religious systems made by this new man was called Mithraism. It celebrated the new man coming into existence by wrestling with and overpowering the black man through the ritualized killing of the black apis bull. We have to ask the question, why celebrate the killing of a black bull? In the spiritual tradition of the black man, the original man of Kemet, let me go back. Yeah. The original man in Kemet, he practiced that he worshiped the anthropomorphic black god called Ra. Ra is incarnate in a body made from the primordial waters. When Ra enters the dark aquatic underworld, he is actually assuming the dark form of Atum or Adam, who is therefore called Auf Ra, the flesh of Ra. So in our spiritual traditions, we were not pagan. What we did was we represented the power of the divine force through different animals, through the different creations of God. But we knew that behind that was the power of the supreme being. So the black apis bull, representing the most powerful, dominant animal in their environment, that black body, that black bull, was considered the representation of the supreme being in that the most high in their society. The black male bull representing the physical presence of the power of God. The feminine manifestation of the black god was called Het Haru. And you see that here. That's from the temple of Het Haru that's still standing in Kemet today, right? So this tradition was passed down through African traditional religions and the traditions of the ancient Near East. One of the names of the Holy Quran is called Al-Kitab, which means the book. Anyone who has read the Holy Quran knows that the first chapter that Muslims are given to read to start the process of spiritual resurrection is called the cow, right? In early Christian tradition, the iconography shows the Messiah being born in a manger. A manger is a long open box or a trough for cows or horses to eat. So these spiritual metaphors show the path to spiritual resurrection and power come from feeding on the word of Allah, God, coming through the Messiah at the end of the present world. So we see here, you can go to Egypt right now, and if you go into this temple is where they say that Heru or Horus was born. And from the ancient traditions, that has the same meaning as the birth of the Messiah, a divine birth, okay? So getting back to Mithraism, in addition to the killing of the apis bull, Mithra was called the Lord of Light, and his birth was celebrated on December 25th. Mithra is associated with the dog, a snake, and a scorpion. The idea of Mithra has been remixed into the concept of Lucifer, the bearer of light, or a fallen angel who was given power by Allah, God's permission to rule over his creation for 6,000 years. DNA research and archaeological evidence confirm the scientific basis of this narrative. Let me see if I got it. I don't think I updated it. Okay. They confirm the scientific basis of this narrative because if you read an article in the National Geographic study by the University of Adelaide on the genetic history of modern Europeans, they trace a force that was applied to the genes of the people at that time, this new man. that was being born into existence that caused a mutation. And this mutation caused the genes to display the triple recessive characteristics of white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. According to the research, this mutation happened a little over 6,000 years ago. This new man, scripturally under the name Israel, made a new world based on the idea of white supremacy. In the Holy Quran, chapter 15, verse 30, Allah God is having a conversation with Satan, the mind of this new man that was made. So the angels made obeisance, all of them together, but Iblis, another word for Satan, did not. He refused to be with those who made obeisance. He said, "O Iblis," meaning God, Allah, "what is the reason that thou art not of those who make obeisance?" He said, "I am not going to make obeisance to a mortal, whom thou hast created of sounding clay, of black mud fashioned into shape." He said, "Then go forth, for surely thou art driven away, and surely on thee is a curse till the day of judgment." He said, "My Lord," this is Satan, "my Lord." See, Satan recognizes the Lord of all the worlds. He recognizes what's going on more than we do because we have been deceived. He said, "Respite me to the day when they are raised." He said, "Surely thou art of the respited ones, till the period of time made known." He said, "My Lord, as thou hast judged me to be erring, I shall certainly make evil fair seeming to them. I shall cause them all to deviate." This new world that the new people, based on white supremacy or a system of rulership, be it religious, judicial, economic, and education, grafted itself into the bloodstream of the original people through the story of the curse of Ham. According to Dr. Harold Brackman, formerly of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, it was first rabbinic Jews that first read a negrophobic meeting into the curse of Ham, where the original people of the planet were doomed to forever be in bondage and hewers of wood. This idea of the curse of Ham spread into the Abrahamic faith and was used to justify a new form of slavery, chattel slavery. Armed with this new language and understanding, the New World used color exclusively for the basis of slavery. This new form of chattel slavery was generational and reduced the original people to a status lower than the animals of the earth. In the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's historic book, you can see it right here, The Message to the Black Man. If you go and read and look at old YouTube clips, you see Muhammad Ali. He was a minister in the Nation of Islam. In the 3-year period that he was stripped of his title of being the world heavyweight champion, he was actually a minister. And he would go around the country speaking primarily to college campuses and others. And you can find clips of him holding this book right here, The Message to the Black Man. But in The Message to the Black Man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, read some of their books as to what was done against our slave parents by the fathers of these modern murderers of ours. For instance, the book entitled Brown Americans by Edwin R. Embry, printed in 1946. On page 54, it tells the story of law against education for the so-called Negroes. He quotes a devil, Henry Berry, as saying, while speaking in the Virginia House of Delegates in 1832 and describing the situation as existed at the time in many parts of the South, quote, "We have as far as possible closed every avenue which by light might enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity for them to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on the level with the beast of the field, and we would be safe." See, their whole intention going back to Mithra was to make sure that they killed the embodiment, not of just the symbolism of the black god, the Apis bull, but to actually kill the people of God themselves and create a world where they are on top and we are forever on the bottom. However, they did not calculate on the coming of God himself. For in the Bible, it says, for as lightning comes from out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be, right? So this man coming from the east, coming to the west, we were taken from the east to the west, and we were buried in the northeast corner of the country. I'm not sure if there are any Masons in the room, but in Masonic theology, they talk about Hiram. And we know that Hiram in the Bible is mentioned, I believe, in the book of Kings, right? But in Masonic language, they said that Hiram, who was Solomon, hired Hiram to be the builder of his temple. But three ruffians conspired to kill Hiram, and they hit him in the head and they left him for dead, right? They in medicine, when you get hit in the back of the head, at the base of your skull is the medulla oblongata, and that is the part that's primarily related to memory. So when you get hit in the head in the medulla oblongata, you have memory loss. So when we suffered memory loss, we no longer knew who we were. So another people stole our identity. So it was not until the coming of God himself, under the title from the Bible, the title, the Son of Man, but in Islam, it's the same person, but he goes under another title called Mahdi, the anointed one, right? The one who God comes to guide us back to the right path. Now, according to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the whole third chapter of Habakkuk is devoted to the coming of God and his work against our enemies. I'm just laying a base before we get to the actual plan, right? Because everything starts spiritual, then it becomes manifest physically. In the same chapter and verse of Habakkuk, Habakkuk saw one God who came from Teman, and another, the Holy One, from Mount Paran. This is also a physical place, Mount Paran. It's somewhere in Arabia. Here, the Bible makes a distinction or a difference between one called God and another one who is called the Holy One. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad asked us, which one should we take for our God? For one is called God, while the other one is called the Holy One. In Habakkuk, it says, the Holy One, his glory covered the heavens and the earth, was full of his praise. It has been a long time since the earth was full of praise for a Holy One. Even to this hour, the people do not care for holy people and will persecute and kill the Holy One if God does not intervene. In the fourth verse of the above chapter, it says, he, meaning the Holy One, had horns coming out of his hands, and there was the hiding of his power. This means that there were two gods here represented at the same time. For this one, the Holy One, the perpetual hills did bow. The tents of Cushan, who were in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Cushan, as many of us know, the land of Cushan represents the Black nation, which is afflicted by the white race. The curtains of the land of Midian could mean the falsehood spread over the people by the white race and their leaders trembling for being exposed by the truth. when Allah God comes for the salvation of his people, like I said, under the title Son of Man and Mahdi, he raises one from the people to be his mouthpiece and a divine representative. The anointed one or Messiah gives guidance to the oppressed and proclaims judgment and destruction of the oppressor. So in the Holy Quran, when this Messiah is raised for the true children of Israel, in the Holy Quran it says, and he, meaning God, Allah, will teach him the book and the wisdom, the Torah and the gospel, and make him a messenger to the children of Israel, saying, I have come to you with a sign from your Lord, that I determined for you out of dust the form of a bird. Then when I breathe into it and it becomes a bird by Allah's permission, and I hear the blind and the lepers and bring the dead to life with Allah's permission, and I inform you of what you should eat and what you should store in your houses. Surely this is a sign in this for you if you are believers. So when this Messiah comes or is raised among a people who have not had a messenger anointed with God's power and wisdom, the people or Satan are going to oppose him. So the God of this present world, Satan, has vowed to fight the Messiah, to keep the people blind, deaf, and dumb. In the people's ignorance, they can continue to be used as a tool and also a slave. Satan desires to make slaves out of all he can so that he can rob them and live in luxury. Through Satan's mastery of language and the knowledge of good and evil, he has deceived the children of Israel to believe the message of the Messiah is hate speech or anti-Semitic. In the book of John, first chapter 11 through 13, it says, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe in his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of man, but of God. So how's everybody doing? I want to make sure we're not going too quick. How's everybody feeling? Let me get some feedback. Is everybody all right? Okay.
Doing good.
All right. So, like I said, the first thing in the pillar, one of the pillars of the plan or the plot to stop the rise of the true children of Israel is to label the man of God as, and the language or the true teachings as hate speech. Because no liar wants to be pointed out. So that they will fight anyone who raises up to teach our people the truth. And the first line of defense that they have is the false charge of anti-Semitism. Now, I think that this was after our interview with Brother Michael a couple of weeks ago. I don't think this was on the tape. But I mentioned that the first time in this country that the term anti-Semitism was used against a Black person. Because in 1913, there was a white Jew that was in a head who was over the Atlanta chapter of B'nai B'rith in Atlanta. His name was Leo Frank. He ran a manufacturing facility, and he molested a young, I believe, a 12 or 13-year-old Irish girl. And he blamed the Black janitor for the rape of the girl, even though it was him that did it, right? But if we remember that back at that time, with the way the laws were, especially in the South, they would not take the word of a Black man over a white man. So he lied saying that the black man did it. However, the police knew that the black man was innocent. So they arrested Leo Frank, right? And many of the northern bankers and the New York Times and all of these national newspapers, once they heard of the case, once they, the white police officers and the judges would not reverse their order to let Leo Frank go, that's when they called it anti-Semitism. Because they said you wouldn't take the word of a black man against a regular Christian white person, but you're going to take his word against a Jewish person. So that in itself is anti-Semitic. The truth had nothing to do with it, according to them. So that's the first time that that term was used. And that is when the B'nai B'rith started a new chapter called the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. It was started because of that case, because they would not take the word of a white man, even though he was lying, a white Jew, over a black man. So they always, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to read something real quick. In 2022, I'm not sure if you can see this, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us this book, Revealing the Truth and Exposing the Synagogue of Satan, a defense against the false charge of anti-Semitism. This is a compilation of several speeches that he has given over the years and different interviews that he did when they questioned him about being called an anti-Semite. So in 2022, for a whole year, we studied this book because he wants our language when we talk about the subject to be as precise as possible. Because when we're talking about this, we're not talking about all Jews. We're talking about a very small portion of them, right? Because many of us people do not know that there are religious Jews and there are secular Jews, right? Many of us who have been studying what's going on in Israel, especially since October 2023, we have heard the term Zionist, right? But most people don't know that when the idea of Zionist was founded, they were by secular Jews. They didn't even believe in God, right? So I want to go into something that we read real quick. I'm not sure if many of us read or watch a program on YouTube that's called or on the radio called Democracy Now! But one of their hosts is by the name of Amy Goodwin. She did an interview with a former Israeli minister. Her name was Shlomet Alani. Listen to Ms. Goodwin's words introducing her guest. Quote, yours is a voice of criticism which we don't often hear in the United States. Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against the policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew? Minister Shlomet Alani said, quote, well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. And when in this country, meaning America, people are criticizing Israel, then they are called anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong, meaning the ADL and AIPAC and all of those with them. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money. And the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong. And they are strong in this country. They are talented people. And they have power and money. And the media and and they are over the media and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitic and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people. And this is to justify everything we do to the Palestinians. So this particular interview was talking about the Palestinians. However, it also applies as one of the pillars or plan to stop the rise of the true children of Israel. Because ever since our association with white supremacy, whenever a Black person stood up to free us, to educate us, one of the things that was always said was that that person was anti-Semitic. Real quick, I'm gonna give you a list of different people who you may be surprised that at one time or another, they were called anti-Semitic. I'm not gonna go through the whole list. One is W.E.B. Du Bois. Many people here in Kansas City, we know of the Du Bois Learning Center, right? But did we know that in his famous book, Up from Slavery, he writes and documents that in the slave plantation South, that after the Civil War, that prior to the Civil War, the Jewish merchants had so much gained access over the economy of the plantations that the plantation owners were in debt to the Jewish merchants. So as payment for their debts, the Jewish merchants became dominant with the slave system, with chattel slavery and sharecropping. I'm not sure if many of us read or have read the Talmud, but sharecropping is a Talmudic practice, right? So in the book Up from Slavery, W.E.B. Du Bois documents that Jewish people, some members of the Jewish community, took over the slave system. And when the book came out, the publishers were so enraged, right, that in the second printing, they make him take out the part that mentions their involvement in our Holocaust, right? Another one is Marcus Garvey. Another one who was branded as an anti-Semite was Martin Luther King Jr., whose holiday we're getting ready to celebrate on his birthday is January the 15th, but the celebration is going to be on January the 19th. He was called an anti-Semite. Many of us know Michael Jackson. He was called an anti-Semite because he had a problem with the way those who run the music business dealt with him, with his finances, right? So he did a song called Do Me, Jew Me, right? He was trying to say that they have an inordinate control over musicians and their thought and have too much control over who gets the money for your intellectual property. So they forced him to change that record, right? How many of us listen to music today? All of the degenerate language talking about the Black woman and the Black man, promoting drugs. But who is over that? But they don't call that anti-Black. But if we say something, not even say anything, but if we just retreat something, like Kyrie Irving did a couple of years ago, we get branded as an anti-Semite. Even though the documentary that he just retweeted was being sold on Amazon. But Kyrie Irving's the one that got labeled as being an anti-Semite. Even President Obama, who some people ignorantly at one time called the first Jewish president because select he was selected before he was elected. He had a lot of members of the Jewish financial banking interests that wanted him to run and gave him support. But when he wouldn't stay lockstep with Netanyahu in terms of Netanyahu's plan for a greater Israel and to have more settlements in the West Bank, they called President Obama an anti-Semite. And in the media, they made pictures of President Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama as monkeys, right? How many of us know that in the Talmud, that they say that the Messiah is in hell boiling in excrement, right? But many of us don't know these things. Another person who was labeled as being an anti-Semite was Malcolm X, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So all of these things are used as a trick to get those of us who are victims of hate and oppression, right? Anyone who is a victim of hate and oppression, we don't want to be involved in anything that's considered hate, right? So whenever we hear that label, many of us so-called educated ones, those who have been to the university, right? Those who have been to all the theological cemetery, right? We think when we hear these terms, we want to back up. We don't want to be associated with that, right? So what is the problem or what can happen when someone is branded as an anti-Semite? I want to read something real quick. Once again, from this book. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, how does one go from engaging in free speech that we assume is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution to find one facing possible criminal penalties? How does such a wicked claim of anti-Semitism move the accused from speaking or writing the truth and then to legal jeopardy? He goes on. What is the legal mechanism by which these attack dogs of the synagogue of Satan activate the governmental apparatus to seek out and punish and destroy those that are labeled as anti-Semites or a hate group and destroy their right to free speech in the process? We want to look at the criminal effect of being labeled an anti-Semite and how these private Jewish organizations who do the labeling, like the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center, manipulate government law enforcement agencies like the FBI and the IRS to target and harass those who are so labeled. I'm not sure if all of us know, but we need to keep abreast of what is going on. Recently, under President Biden, and it has been updated by President Trump, they put out a document. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. They put out a document of a new national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. And they take the wording from the ADL in the Simon Wiesenthal Center they use them to brand people as being an anti-Semite. So the government says that they will attack that person's business. They will attack that person's organization, and that they will use the media to try to discredit that one, so that people who might have been supporters of that business or that organization will pull back. So that person's economic status will be hit financially. So they do this as a way to whip our people back into line. But if that person does not apologize and, in their words, repent, then they go to the next step, which they use the FBI to target and harass them. Many of us who might have seen recently that after Charlie Kirk was killed a couple months ago, right? People who questioned things that happened with Charlie Kirk, they were labeled as anti-Semites. I'm thinking of what's the sister's name? Um, I can't think of her name, but it'll come to me. But many people were labeled as anti-Semites. However, Elon Musk, using the power of his money and in X, formerly Twitter, he said that he's no longer going to go by the ADL's classifying of these groups, because according to Elon Musk, he was saying that the ADL classifies certain white nationalist organizations as anti-Semites, and he didn't want to stand for that. However, you and I, many of us were labeled as Black identity politics, right? Black identity terrorists, right? So obviously, you know that means you and I are on the crosshairs. So that's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wanted us to read this book, so that we will strive to speak a language to keep us out of the snares and the traps that they have laid for us. Because like I was telling brother during the interview, we have to be careful. It's not all Jews. It's a small portion of them that use the word Jew, just like I said earlier, they use the name Jacob or they use the name Israel as a shield for what they do that's not right. Because we know that our religion is not what we say. I'm not a Muslim just because I say it. You, the people in the audience, are whatever you claim to be just because you say it. We are what we do, right? So if I misuse you, if I lie to you, I can't lie in the name of being a Muslim. A liar is a liar, regardless of what they call themselves. Mm. So let's go forward. Mm. So I don't want to be too long because I want to make sure that we have time for questions. But I just want to go real quick, and then we go into the second pillar that I want to talk about. Just how Minister Farrakhan was brought into this mix of being called an anti-Semite. He was called an anti-Semite because he was standing up for his brother, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, when he ran for president in 1984. And the Jews threatened Jesse Jackson because at that time there was a solidarity between the blacks here in America and the Palestinians. And Jesse Jackson met with President Arafat. And then later on, Jesse Jackson's campaign office was firebombed. And there was in the media at that time, certain members, there was a group called the Jewish Defense League. They were saying, ruin Jesse, ruin. And they were bombing, like I said, they bombed his campaign office. And when the minister stood up to defend his brother, the ADL called Minister Farrakhan the new Black Hitler. And they started taking the minister's words out of context, right? So because of this battle that was engaged, that was nothing new. Members of the Nation of Islam, our historical research department, I'm not sure what's the age range of the people here, but I'm old enough to remember Public Enemy, right? And many of us who are a little bit older or just know something about hip hop history, we know that with Public Enemy, at one time, Professor Griff was kicked out of the group, right? It happened because members of the Nation of Islam, our historical research department, who were tired of them trying to label Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam as being an anti-Semite, we wrote a book called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 1. And in Volume 1, they went to Jewish encyclopedias, history books, and they showed and proved that it was not Jews who owned at that time at the beginning all of the plantations. but they own most of the slave ships. They provided the insurance to the slave owners, right? They provided the chains. They provided the food, all of the equipment that was needed for the slave trade to happen. They were behind all of that, right? They controlled the it's escaping me right now. Um, they control the selling and the merchandising of the slaves themselves, right? And when there was a Jewish holiday, there were no more slave auctions because the slave auctions were shut down because they are the ones who controlled it, right? So um, Professor Griff got an early copy of that book, and he happened to be on a radio station with some Jewish people that he was friends with, being in the music business, and he just started talking and showing them the book. And he thought that since they were friends and during their conversation, they did not object to anything that he said, right? But later on, they took it to their higher ups and they forced Public Enemy at that time to kick Professor Griff out of the group. With this book, The Secret Relationship, Volume 1, there's a former professor who was the utmost scholar on Marcus Garvey. He wrote a book called The Jewish Onslaught because he also used that book, The Secret Relationship, Volume 1, in his college course. And the members, the Jewish faculty at the school where he worked, they attacked him and they wanted to have the school to fire him. So he wrote a whole book on the process that they use when they label someone and how they galvanize the media, they galvanize the education system, they galvanize everyone to attack somebody, right? So if you can get that book, that would be a great book you should get. It's called The Jewish Onslaught, right? Later on, several years later, we came out with The Secret Relationship Volume 2. And that deals how Jews gained control of the Black economy, right? Because just like we see how Trump bombed Venezuela, because he said, that's our oil. They stole our oil, right? So oil right now is the main driver of world economics. If you don't have oil, your business, your factories cannot run. China needs oil. One of the tankers that they seized about a week ago was on its way to China. The American Navy, they confiscated the ship and they said that they're going to take it and they're going to use or sell the oil themselves. But back during slavery, it was not oil that was most important, it was cotton. In the most fertile area in the country for the growth of cotton is the Mississippi Delta region. The most fertile area is that area. So you will see if you look at a map, you have a black belt of humanity, of slaves coming from Virginia down the southeast, right, into Alabama and Mississippi. But the heart of it was the Mississippi Delta, even coming up to Kansas City along the Missouri River, going over to Lexington and then over to St. Louis, then down to Memphis, and that's where it starts, the Delta. They waxed rich because of the sale of cotton. The New York Stock Exchange, modern accounting practices were all started because of slave cotton, right? The Industrial Revolution in New York and in England was fueled by not only the cotton, but the vast money that they were making from the sale of cotton because of it being in bondage. Many of you all know who might have lived through the financial crisis of 2008, when a lot of the investment banks went down, there was an investment bank. One of the very first investment banks that went under was called Lehman Brothers. But Lehman Brothers started in Alabama because they were a reseller of slave cotton. And even right here in Kansas City, many of you all might know of Kansas City was famous for, of course, cattle. They were famous because we're out here in the heartland, wheat. But again, they were also famous for the textile industry. So they got rich off of slave-produced cotton, and later on, sharecropper-produced cotton made Kansas City rich. Right down off of 9th and Broadway, there used to be a museum to the needle trades that a lot of people here, especially white men and women in Kansas City, waxed rich because they made not only clothes, they made underwear, they made curtains, they made all of these things that was fueled by the money and the cotton. So it's the cotton that fueled everything, and they waxed rich. So in that book, Secret Relationship, Volume 2, I would also suggest that we get that book. Now, for time's sake, I'm gonna go on to the next pillar so we can have time for questions. So like I said, just to recap, the first one was to brand anyone who tries to say any bit of the truth about what's going on, about the truth of who we are, to brand them as an anti-Semite. The next pillar that I theorize is called make the nigger rich, right? A lot of times on social media, all you hear now is about we got to chase the bag, we got to get the bag. Is that right? That we have to get money. Hell, we live in America. This is a capitalist society. So we have to have money to live, right? Money is just like air. You have to have it, right? However, according to the scriptures, when that Son of Man comes and judges that nation that we shall serve, it says that we will come out with great substance. One of the substances is to be given the mind of God himself, but the other substance is that we're supposed to be given a land of our own. Many of you might know of one of the famous sayings about Brother Minister Malcolm X is, there's no freedom without land, right? So, but the new strategy is to make us not want land because we suffered so much under slavery and Jim Crow and sharecropping. We don't want land because it's hard to toil in the land, right? So the new strategy is to make us rich by being singers, by being entertainers, by being podcasters, anything but being a farmer, right? So the old strategy was to keep the Black man poor. Many of us that are my age, I wasn't old enough to remember these people in their heyday. I saw them when they were older, right? Sammy Davis Jr., Red Fox. It was not uncommon for people of that time, they would be famous. But when they died, we found out that they were broke, right? And what we found out is that they're accountants, they're financial advisors. They scammed these people, our entertainers and our athletes. They had the money while our athletes and entertainers had fame, right? Even now, if you go back and listen to Fat Joe, he details how he was robbed, right? And he had to do some time. It was because of his financial and advisors robbed him. They said that they were paying his taxes, but they didn't. They kept it for themselves, right? So, but by the time we found out what's going on, we either are broke or we got to do time. So the old strategy was to keep us poor by manipulating our finances. But the new plan is to make us rich. Excuse me, let me go back real quick. I missed something I wanted to say. So the old plan, That's right. So the new plan is to make us rich, right? So the new plan is a revision of an old strategy. Many of us might know of the story of the Moors conquering Spain, which included Black Muslims and Black Hebrews at the time, right? So when we crossed over from Morocco into Gibraltar, into Spain, or what became renamed Al Andalusia, right? We were so full of religious zeal, we quickly took over the area that's now called Spain and Portugal. We went over the Pyrenees Mountains into France. And in 1717, we won a particular battle, right? So this king of that area, he requested help from someone who was further north in France it was called Gaul at that time. And this person's name was Charles Martel. They call him Charles the Hammer. He's the grandfather of Charlemagne. Many of us have heard the name of Charlemagne the God, but many of us don't know where Charlemagne comes from. But he's the grandson of Charles Martel. 10 years after this battle that I mentioned in France in 1717, he came up with what was called the scorched earth policy. Excuse me. He stopped the scorched earth policy. Previously in those days, when an advancing army would come, they would retreat. And so that the advancing army could not take advantage of the gardens, the crops, or whatever, the cattle. They would burn everything and kill the cattle so that the invading army couldn't get it, couldn't have use of it. But Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, he came up with a new strategy. He said, don't do that. Let them have it. Let them get fat and happy. Leave everything for them. So over time, the Muslims, the Black Moors, we came a little bit more complacent, right? So 10 years later, there was a battle at La Tours in 727. And Charlemagne and the white Christians at that time, they defeated the Moors and they drove them back over the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. And I say that to say that those of us who watch different documentaries, right, we know that coming through the 60s, the height of the Black Power movement, we will field all people, not any particular religious tradition, but the spirit of the Black masses was for freedom. There was a call. What time is it? It's nation time. We wanted to come together and we wanted to buy land and we wanted to have a land of our own, right? We don't hear that talk anymore. We want to get the bag, right? But in getting the bag, what is that? This country is $37 trillion in debt. It's bankrupt right now because the interest on the debt is more, the interest payment on the debt is over $1 trillion. The interest payment is more than the payment for the Defense Department. So while we're getting a bag, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we will never be free as long as our mouth is in the white man's kitchen. So we have to buy land in order to supply our own needs. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the minister, he said, I want you to think like this. Don't think for this tiny little group called the Nation of Islam. He said, I want you to think for everyone. He said, if our people eat one piece of bread a day, right? If there's 30 million of us that just eat one piece of bread a day, how many pieces of bread do we need every day? That would be 30 million pieces of bread. That would be 90, that'd be 900 million pieces of bread a month, right? So he said, how much land do we need under wheat cultivation just to provide our people with one piece of bread a day? So we have to think for the whole, not just for a small group of us. Because as we can see, the dollar is going in the toilet. So if we need to use our ability to get money to buy land, and from land you get trees, you get timber, then you can cut those trees into lumber. Then we can go into the housing business. We can become developers, right? Then we can grow food and crops and all these things. So that automatically means we need to go into the trucking business, right? And then we need to do like President Ibrahim Traore. Then we have to have added value products. It's no longer good enough for us to grow crops and send them to Europe and have it processed there, and then they send it back to us. And then we're paying exorbitant prices for things. So President Ibrahim Traore has made it so that in Burkina Faso, they are one of the largest producers of tomatoes in all of Africa. So they have their own tomato canning factory, right? All of these things that we need to do for ourselves, but it comes from the ownership of the land, not just the getting of a dollar so that we can floss, right? We need to get the dollar so we can buy land so we can become self-independent. Now, the last pillar that I want to go to before we open up for questions is the idea of Black unity. There has been a certain language that coming from the 60s, there was people, some of you might know, there was a beef between the Black Panther Party and the party called US, and the FBI through the COINTELPRO program, they tried to pit Black organizations against one another. But coming out of that, we started adopting a language of operational unity. I might disagree on this or that point, but we want to learn how we can work together, because it's only by us working together that we can have success. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, our unity is more powerful than a nuclear or atomic bomb. Not the unity of Muslims, but the unity of all Black original people first in America and then throughout the world, right? Then we would have enough power and unity to be able to counteract anything that anybody else tries to do. But coming out of the Million Man March, which to me, from my vantage point, was the most important view of the work of the Messiah in our midst. All Black organizations worked together to make that day a great day. The next week in the Final Call newspaper, it had a picture of the nearly 2 million men on the mall, and it said a glimpse of heaven. And one of the reasons why it was a glimpse of heaven is because every theological thought, every different strain of thinking was represented that day. And all of us worked together to make it happen. But just like in the Bible, when the Messiah was, after he raised Lazarus from the dead, the Pharisees said, if we don't go after him now, the whole world will go after him, right? Now, when I say him, I mean in the children of Israel, right? Because the Messiah is not just an individual, it's also is representative of a people. Mm-hmm. So Lazarus was being brought out or resurrected from the tomb that day. But according to the Bible, the Pharisees, not only did we have to go after the Messiah, according to the scriptures, it says they devised a plan that they have to kill Lazarus because Lazarus isn't a sign of the power of the Messiah. So they doubled down on their plan of drugs in the Black community. They doubled down on their plan to insert a language within us that we no longer talk about Black unity. We want to talk about delineation. We want to talk about FBAs versus Africans. We want to talk about FBAs versus the Caribbean. We want to talk about I'm not African, I'm Aborigine. I never came from Africa. All of this is improper, in my opinion. In one of our lessons that we are given, we're given a lesson that says, why does the devil call our people African? At this time, it was written in 1931. So in that, he said the answer is because the devil wants to make our people of North America believe the people on that continent are the only people that they have and are all savage. He wants us to think that we are all different. So when we start using a language that makes us think that we are different from our brother because he's a different religion, we make us think we're different because I'm from Africa versus someone that's born here. All of these different things, then that means all of us know, we say, how does the white man rule us? Through divide and conquer. So why do we even go with the thing that's going to allow them to divide us even further? But we do it to ourselves because we want to say we're delineating. So in the last thing before we open up for questions, in the Holy Quran it says that we did not become disunited until knowledge came to us. And then each one of us delight in our own understanding, and we divide ourselves into sects and parties out of envy, right? So we always want to get the one up on one another because we want to get shine for our own group instead of learning how we can work together, because our enemy is Satan. Our enemy is not our brother. So at this time, family, I'd like to thank you for allowing me just to come before you, just to give a little small bit, but I wanted to go ahead and end right now so that we can take some questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Brother Kevin, thank you again for presenting, man. That was a whole bunch of information for us to take in. We're definitely thankful for you to present that to us. But at this time, any comments, any questions anybody would like to offer for Brother Kevin?
Excuse me, Brother Michael. I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
No question, my guy. No question. And so, what are your thoughts, though, in terms of the information that's presented? Is this familiar information to you all, a little different information? Any types of epiphanies, any types of challenges to what you do hold to be true? What was your experience with the information Brother Kevin brought for you?
I took notes the entire time.
Okay.
So I'm a note taker. Anytime I go into a class, come there to learn.
Yes, sir.
And also reflect based on what I already know. So there's a lot of interesting points that have been made, kind of like a journalist, if you will. A journalist's job is to make you aware of the actions, events that's going on around the world. So from that perspective, he gave us some information about what America's doing with Venezuela right now. We know the history of America and Venezuela. I'm just becoming aware that Venezuela represents the oil mecca of the world. I didn't realize that. Yeah. I'm just like, okay. Yeah. But we're into spiritual dynamics and the operations of what's going on in the world. There's two gods. There's the God of this world, and then there's the sovereign God of the entire universe. So sometimes we can tend to be eclipsed, if you will, by what's going on in the world. Well, the sovereign creator is the creator and the sovereign Lord God of the entire universe, not just this world. This is a small speck in the total ramifications of the entire universe. So let's not get overwhelmed by what's happening on this little bitty drop. Even though we're significant and the sovereign creator loves us, let's not get overwhelmed by the little distractions and the little fires that are being started by the enemy that's in this world. Scripture says, let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter. Let us fear the sovereign creator of the universe, who is Yahweh. Let us fear him and keep his commandments. That's our job. That's our classification. That's our assignment. When we get distracted on anything else, that is exactly the enemy's object, is to distract.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
But I'm glad I came.
I'm glad I'm back, my brother Michael.
I see you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm glad you invited and hosted this, and brother Kevin Muhammad, man, he came with a lot of information
Yes.
that's been heard by me, but he came with some information I was never heard, man. It was really very informative to know and had the receipts, having the receipts, because everybody won't prove for what you're saying. But having the receipts was key. And through my journey of studying the Bible and a little bit of the Quran and gaining knowledge and coming into consciousness, I've always had this feeling that there's some things that's been going on in this world before I was born, even now, to where there's been some powers that's been set against us as a Nubian and as a Black man. And one thing I want to do is, why I came and brought my son, because I want to know, and that's why you got to read The Message of a Black Man. It's very important before you're 15, all right? But we want to know the traps that's out here, the snares, and the history of how we got here, the true history, not just fairy tales and allegories.
Right.
So, with this information, man, I really probably need to. Did you record it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Probably need to go through some of it again, man, and take some specific notes. But I'm like, everybody else has a plan. What is our plan, though, Brother Muhammad?
Well, that's first, like you said, we have to, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, when he put out the Secret Relationship Volume 2, he says we have to learn the architecture of white supremacy, right? We have to know what they did to build the world that we live in, right? And who did it and why they did it, right? Then once we do that, as you said, as we start coming into the knowledge of self, we have to pool our resources together, right? And unite. Just like I mentioned, President Ibrahim Traore, right? Many of us who follow that, and I've talked to Brother B. Michael about this, the African Union has designated the diaspora as Region 6, right? But how many of us know that, right?
Right.
What type of organizing effort are we doing, right? So if we organize as Region 6, the diaspora, we can do the same thing that the Alliance of the Sahel is doing. We can unite, regardless of, there's 3 different countries, but they came together. Recently, they formed their own investment bank.
Yeah.
Right.
Recently, they formed their own currency. Recently, they formed their own military structure. 3 countries, but one mind, right? Why can't we, just speaking of Kansas City, right? Why can't the Black man and Black woman, regardless of ideology, why can't we come together and say, you know what? We're tired of the way the police treat us in Kansas City.
Right.
Why can't we come together and say, look, we're going to mobilize 300 brothers, right? And if you get any calls, tell the police chief, if it's anything east of truth, y'all stay west of truth. We got this, right? Then we can petition them, whatever money you were giving to your officers, we need that.
Right. I like
And then
that.
once we bring back assemblage of peace and security in our own neighborhoods, then we can go to the business people, right?
Right.
Sunfresh, why'd you close down? Look, it's peaceful over here. You need to stay open on 31st and Prospect, right? Because the Black man came together and pooled our own resources and said, look, it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
Once we come into the knowledge of self, we got to stop asking for a benevolent white person to do for us what we can come together and do for ourselves. So that's what President Ibrahim Traore, and I mention him because I don't remember the names of the presidents of Niger and Mali, but it's
Right.
all three of them. They
It
kicked the
is.
French out, right? Because they said if the French said that they were there because there's terrorists, they said, hell, the terrorists have been here for 15 years and they're still here. Y'all get out, and we'll handle it ourselves, right? We need to do the same thing because we are a colonized community. People come into our neighborhood, get our money, then they take our money back to their neighborhood and they live rich off of us.
Right.
But if we come together and stop trying to say, well, I go to this church, I'm a member of this sorority or fraternity. I don't get with the Qs. I don't get with the Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church. I don't get with the Nation of Islam. Well, hell, if we do that, we're nothing better than a gang. We're set tripping in the name of religion. We can't do that anymore.
Right.
Any other thoughts, questions?
When it comes to, you mentioned FBA, Foundation of Black American.
Maybe speak up a little bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to the movement of Foundation of Black American, like, I see what you're saying. Like, we all need to be unified as Black people globally. But how do we defend ourselves from, when they have political figures who look like they want to represent Black Americans, but they really are trying to undermine, like example, Kamala Harris, like she was over here, doing the most, just like talking about how she was listening to hip hop music and all that stuff, and how she liked to cook her greens and all that. But she's Indian and that's her culture, but she wants to act like she's, Black. How would you say we defend ourselves against that without delineate,
I think I understand and I agree with your sentiment, right? That
yeah.
as Black people here who came through the Ma'afa, the transatlantic slave trade in America, we do have a unique culture. We do have a unique experience that's different from other people. So if we just want to limit it to saying, just like even President Obama, he didn't come through our experience. His father was Kenyan. He came over here from Kenya and went to school at KU, right? But what people don't know that President Obama's grandfather was fought against the British. He was part of the Mau Mau, right? So even though we can say that he didn't come through our experience, no one could say that the Mau Mau weren't fighters, right? So a lot of times what I'm saying is this. People who, to my understanding, we can be extremist with our idea of nationality. We can be extremist with materialism. We can be materialist in trying to make a line in the sand or delineate between other people. We need to recognize who we are and our value and our contribution and not let other people co-opt. I agree with that. I only think it's harmful when we try to go to the extreme and say, well, I don't get down with them because I'm this and they're that. You follow me? Because if something happens in Haiti, or if something happens in like Venezuela right now, if we get too extremists, we can think they don't have nothing to do with me. That's them, because we don't see them as family, right? President, and I'll end that question on this, because you mentioned, someone mentioned Venezuela. President Maduro, he took over from President Hugo Chavez, right? Which a lot of us don't know, that President Bush tried this same thing to overthrow President Chavez back in 2004. This is nothing new. but the people rose up and put Chavez back in power. I think that's one of the reasons why they tried to brand Maduro as a drug narco terrorist so they can go under the guise of law to arrest him so they can take him out of the country. When they did this back in 2004, Hugo Chavez stayed in Venezuela. So when the people rose up, they just put him back in power, right? So I'm just saying that, oh, excuse me. And he said that he is an Afro Venezuelan. And so is Maduro, even though they're of the lighter hue, they don't consider themselves of the European Venezuela. So if we don't study, we think just all Venezuelans are the same. They're not. They have the same black-white dynamic as we do here. And the white ones that used to control the money, they are the ones who most of the time you see who are celebrating what's going on. But it's the black Venezuelans who are taking the brunt of this. Because what Venezuela was doing, they were trying to use the oil money to help the black and the darkest skinned Venezuelans. But if we don't see them as our family, we're going to say, the hell with Venezuela. Let Trump do whatever he wants to do. So that's what I'm saying is taking it too far, if you understand what I'm saying.
Indeed.
Did I hear you say that President Barack Obama is not familiar with our plight and that he came from Kenya?
I'm not saying that he's not familiar with. I said his father was from Kenya. So genetically, he did not come up through our slave experience. Genetically, not that he didn't go to school and study and live in Chicago. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just talking about, as brother said, like lineage. He's not from our lineage. That's what I was saying. But from study, yes, he learned what we went through. He worked in Southside Chicago as a community organizer. So he learned our experience from an academic standpoint. But it was not by bloodline is what I'm saying.
So what's the point?
Because Obama, he
Hold on, let the man speak.
he didn't provide
justice. I'm asking him.
So my point was, I just related that because the brother mentioned Kamala Harris, because she has the same type of background that she is not, even though she is black, her mother is Indian, but her father is black, but she did not come through the American slave system. That was my point. And that
So Brody had asked a question about how do we stop these people that look like us from getting in there and saying they us, but they really fighting against us with the legal process and judicial process.
Yeah, because Obama, he didn't do nothing with with Tamir Rice getting killed and with Trayvon Martin getting killed.
For his people.
Didn't do nothing for us.
I think that we have to understand government, and that's what sometimes causes us to become emotional. Emotionalism has absolutely nothing to do about the caricature of law. It doesn't have anything to do with the way I feel or how I think. The law is explicit. The Constitution is explicit. The President of the United States is obligated to follow the Constitution, not the way we feel and not the way we think. We got to understand that. Understand law. Don't get out of our emotions. Yes, we're hurt that people are being killed and we have a right to protest. The President of the United States' job is to represent all Americans, period. He's not in office to represent Black people. That's not why Black, white, green, blue, and purple put him in office. They didn't put him in office to take care of Black people. Get out of our emotions, please.
Excuse me.
That's the truth.
No one's arguing about that. That wasn't the question. So that's not what we were talking about.
The man just said right here, when something happened to XYZ, President Obama didn't do nothing. That's exactly what he just said. And I'm telling you, that's not his job. the local government's job, the chief of police, what is it, the chamber of not the chamber of commerce, but what is the people that's under the mayor? They've got a city council. You go to them. You don't go to the president of the United States. Let's deal with knowledge. My people
That's true. I agree with that.
Or lack of knowledge. That's what's hurting us. It's lack of knowledge.
So he didn't do
Last
nothing.
thing, I will say, I agree 100% with what you said. However,
let's
not about your Mayor Rice. I'll just say this.
Brother George, Brother George, hold on.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think let me say this, right? So protocol is everything. We do need to understand protocols, right? We do need to recognize how justice functions in this country. There is misjustice that is carried out exclusively that affects our community disproportionately, right? So we have to address that. But I'm gonna say that even with city council, we have a responsibility to also uphold justice amongst ourselves as well. We have to do that as well. We can't rely on government to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves. So we have to make sure that we understand our rights and exercise those rights in addition to understanding how the functionality of municipalities work, how state government works, how federal government works, right? And understand that they're all subservient to us.
Right.
Most important, they are our servants. So if there's going to be any movement, it has to come from us organized. That's what it's going to have to come from. But I guarantee you this, the more grassroots we can be, especially as us, what we need to do. I heard the word sovereignty mission a little while ago. When we understand that about ourselves and we move the way we need to move, we don't even got to worry about them. Just like he was just talking about. We ain't got to worry about anything in our communities if we doing it ourselves. Take the Amish, take the Quakers, take all those other groups that are just doing what they need to do for themselves. We have all capacities and more to do that ourselves. And we got the spending power. I know I had a question here. My brother, you had a question comment?
I think I had a point. Everybody was kind of speaking on it. I think to wrap it up. I don't know if Muhammad can remember a term that was used to he used it in your speech to say that we can organize with putting our ideologies and our theology and everything aside. What's that? Economically.
Operational unity.
Yeah, so that operational unity that we're looking for, knowing that America is government, is business. I got 2 points on how America is plot to keep down the real Israelite, right? You said that they want to label us and give us this persona as a hateful people. And then 2, they want to make us rich and dependable to America and hate. You say hate our people, right? By way of doing that. So we get away from that system, and I don't even know you, bro. But the point he was asking, how do we vet? How do we make sure that people are on one with, right? So this is my point. If even going back to Obama, if we are putting people in place that are on the same goal as we, that is, I hope we're talking about us being independent of this government or this class, this business that wants to keep us down. I think, and I hope that's what we're talking about. And we put people in position that has that mindset, right? That want to make us more independent from America. And I think that's the answer is we put people in positions that are for what our goal is. And that's being more independent and not dependent on America, knowing that it's history and what they want for us, right? Is all my point.
Yeah,
I agree. I'll say this just in terms of this is really more. It can be local, and it is, but I'm thinking more of like the congressional level, right? Just think of say Cori Bush in St. Louis. You know, she came to fame because of the murder of Mike Brown and her organizing in St. Louis. And she became a congressperson, right? Representing the needs of her constituents, right? But because of the horrific actions of October 7, 2023, and the stands that she took, it was people from outside of the community, APAC, who funded her opposition, and she lost her seat in Congress. And that happened not only to her, it happened to a lot of Black representatives who, as far as I could see, many of them were fighting for the things that were needed on the local level. But people who did not like their stand vis-a-vis the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they pulled their money and used their money and resources to get these people out of Congress. But one thing that we need to do is we need to educate our people about when we do put someone in office, we can't just say I voted and say, well, you got it. You know, we got to continue to organize to show up for them, to financially back them, and to let them know that if they are actually doing things that's in our benefit, we have to get out there and support them. So that anyone else from another community can't come in and try to smear their reputation because they put single issue voting above of what we think is in the best interest of our community. So
Let me make a comment. What's going to really help us, especially as African American men, because we're supposed to be the leaders of our communities. If we don't understand organizational structure, it's impossible for us to lead even your own family, let alone thinking about the local government or the national government. We got to learn what is your role in your own house? Let's get to the basics. Organizational structure is extremely important for you to even walk as a balanced human being. You can't be walking down the street, intoxicated. You're not balancing your own mind. Understand what your role is, and I'm just going to say it's very necessary for us, gentlemen sitting right here. We need to study organizational structure. Mm-hmm. There is a protocol in every city, every state, and then on the national level. If you don't understand that and you're going to start pointing fingers at the president, you don't understand organizational structure. You're pointing at the wrong person. You got a local representative of your city, even of your own county. First, before you get to the president, you got to go through these people who's supposed to represent what's going on your block. Wait.
Brother B. Michael, I need to leave, if that's okay.
No doubt. Understand. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the information, brother.
Thank you.
We will definitely, I'll be in touch with you soon and we'll definitely see how to move forward with some more stuff, Brother Kevin.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, family. Assalamu alaikum.
Hey, peace and blessings. We got a couple more minutes. What comes in my mind is what I was gonna say earlier. It's good to have these conversations because what we're doing is we're taking different vantage points to all the issues that we're facing in life, and we're getting different perspectives of them. And one thing I wanted to do myself was to present a different perspective of particularly cultural and spiritual ideology that we can get a different slant of things sometimes, and it's not to just have a debate, but it's to reason, it's to come up with some understanding so that we can have consensuses and learn how to build together. Mm-hmm. There is a reality that peaceful coexistence can happen on Earth. Yeah. But it's going to take us making efforts like this to bring different perspectives to the forefront and let those perspectives speak and us to listen like you all wonderfully did, and even share where we do have points of variance. And it's essential because this is how you come to agreements. This is how you come to understandings. And so I definitely appreciate you all being here and being a part of this experience because this is something that we can do to generate a wholly different united front in Kansas City, just starting here, right? I do plan on bringing, from some different Christian perspectives in, just the major religions that we're a part of.
Right.
Because Kevin Muhammad was going to be a part of another conversation I was going to have with a Christian brother, myself, and Kevin, the Muslim, and we were going to talk about the state of Black faith and how we can go about really looking to bridge a lot of the gaps that are present.
Yeah.
And at least to have an understanding of one another practically, and then to understand how we can connect and co-align in our struggle, in our plight. Because we're going to be stronger with not only numbers, but unity. Like, if we don't have unity, the numbers mean nothing.
We don't have one mind, we ain't gonna never unite.
There it is, right?
I would like to volunteer, man. I'll bring a message from the vantage point of the Bible. What is the message of the sovereign creator of the universe? What is his message?
Kingdom, bro.
And that's what I would like to take 15 minutes, man, just to share with us. What is his message? And that message is to harmonize all of us, everybody on this planet. It's a message of harmony, it's a message of peace, it's a message of love. So anything other than that, we're getting distracted.
That's real. I would like to do this. I have for February and March. So maybe have around April for you to have a presentation. Anybody else is interested in the presentation, just let me know and we can organize that. We do have first Sundays here, Vineyard Neighborhood Association. This is Baba Ike right here. He is the chairperson, if I'm not mistaken, of the Vineyard Neighborhood Association. Let's give him a round of applause. You got Mama Virginia over there. I believe you're the secretary, Mama Virginia? Everything. She's Mama Virginia. That's Mama Virginia. Give them a round of applause for them allowing us to have this space and to be so gracious and host it here. Beautiful space. And we just want to make sure we're taking advantage of the jewels that are in our community, and just providing opportunities for dialogue, even if it is challenging at times, and that's necessary. We need to have those challenging conversations sometimes that we can grow, as long as we can, at the end of the day, say that, I can respectfully, if I don't agree, I can respectfully disagree. If I agree, look, let's build more on it. But let's not just leave that disagreement there. Let's learn to just build and move in the spirit of peaceful coexistence.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, wow. Any closing thoughts? Anybody want to share anything?
I just like to reintroduce myself, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing, but I'm a master teacher. I teach the Word of God from Genesis to Revelations. I've been blessed many great teachers over a period of 40 years, and I've been around a while. Honestly, I don't want this role. To be quiet, I don't. But through osmosis, all of my elders, most of my elders, and most of my mentors are dead. They're gone. And it crushes my soul. But I'm left with a legacy that I have to carry on.
Pick up that torch.
I have to. So it ain't something that I was the Lord pick me. When I look around, these people are gone, and I'm left with the beauty and the essence of all the information that's been shared with me over 30, 40 years.
I know.
So Jeff George, executive director and founder of Light of the World Outreach Ministry.
Michael
Service.
So do the presentation and then holler at Michael B. Long.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't look like a preacher.
I make a usual in Black history.
Clean up.
I make a usual in Black history.
Okay.
There you go.
Got some coming up, so.
I do want to introduce Benaiah who? Israel. Talk about your newsletter and some things you got going on as well, brother, just so that people can be more aware of what it is that you're doing, even with your martial arts that you're offering as well.
Yeah. I know you for like about 13 years. But yeah, I've been a part of the Israelite community for at least about 13 years. But I got a newsletter called Black Star My News. I let everybody get a copy for free. before y'all leave. I'll leave it just statement for y'all. But yeah, we just talked about just different issues that's dealing in the Black community, and at the same time, solutions, you know what I'm saying, how to fix the community, and at the same time, history. I'm real big on history, learning Black history. So hopefully me and Mikael could get together and do a history presentation. And at the same time, I teach African martial arts too, because a lot of times we don't realize the Haitian Revolution, just the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution just came to pass
Yes.
on the 1st of January. But we don't realize that the Haitian Revolution was possible because of what? African martial arts. Y'all seen The Woman King? That movie, The Woman King, their homie. A lot of their homie, they went to Haiti, but her name, I forgot her name. But Dessalines, his auntie, she was part of the Dahomey tribe in Africa. And she's the one who taught him military tactics. And that's how the Haitian Revolution was possible. But I do teach African martial arts too. So I'll leave my contact information up here for y'all too if y'all interested.
And I teach boxing, so I teach offense and defense, all offense.
Do you teach about the history of Haiti and the connection it has?
Yeah, all that stuff,
It's very deep.
Yeah, so hopefully I can get with Mikael and I could do like a presentation dealing with African martial arts and going into,
That Haiti.
because all the places that we were scattered at in slavery, we brought our martial traditions with us. Jamaica, Haiti, wherever, even in the Americas we brought. I'm not sure, have y'all heard of Kalinda? That's another fighting style that we created, but it got brought from Africa to all the different places we was enslaved at. But I'll leave my contact information for if anybody's interested.
I actually won the championship here, middleweight championship in the 90s.
Did you go do it at the Justice Center?
So I'm trying to help, as trainer at the Justice Center as well as the boxing gym.
Okay.
You got to go in on the Justice Center. Right.
Anybody else have anything that they'd like to announce?
That Black history.
Pastor Black, we'll talk about what the information line you got, all the information you sent out.
Many of you here are already on my emails. I send out about a dozen emails a day. And it has to do with everything that's happening in Kansas City. City Hall, the county, I don't forget, Jackson County, actually, what you call it.
Chicago.
And the police department, all of the city agencies, most organizations in this city, from ad hoc crime, the Centers for Neighborhood. And the reason I do this is so everybody knows what everybody else is doing, so that we can all support each other. No matter what our differences, philosophies, we all have common goals and aims to get to achieve. And that's what I do. That's why I gave you my card. I want to trade you with this. The big email. Anything that you want to distribute, if our city, all the major citizens.
Yes, sir.
Rather than doing solicitor report date, and you know, fact us. So many emails on the honest number of days, I'm very good. Okay, that's why I definitely get work with days in advance, so I have time to get it out.
Okay, yes, sir.
And I'm impressed with your black star.
Thank you.
It really looks good.
Thank you.
So we're coming with a fabulous.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's your name here? But not. Well, I gave you a presentation on the block, all right? Is it something? Yes, sir. Why not? Because, well, you got it. All right. That's right. Yeah, get them up.
Hey, Kyle.
But not.
Let me get a picture with you in the group.
Oh, yeah, let's get
Actually, at some field, this is the box, all that stuff, so we might have that in box, everything.
Peace, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Hopefully.
Signing off.